Does almost cheating count? My 36 wife 35 moved to a new state for a job transfer and lower cost of living. We both were excited and came up with goals of creating a new life, making new friends, and creating stability for our young children. The pandemic hit and we got really close to our neighbors and hung out at each other's houses. One couple went through a divorce rather quickly. That couple lived next door. The neighbor's wife moved far away, but the couples hung out at his house all the time. He was an excellent cook and had a pretty nice spread in the backyard. One night me and this neighbor, we will call him Jim, were smoking a cigar with one of his old military friends. They began exchanging stories of how they would sleep with married women on base. I got uncomfortable and made an excuse to leave. This raised my suspicions. Jim and my wife would text from time to time, usually making plans for us all to hang out. My wife would also ask questions about Jim's love life. Whether it was right or wrong, I began to snoop. Couldn't find anything on her phone or emails. So I stopped. Over a year later, my wife found religion and told me to stop hanging out with Jim. He didn't live a clean life. I agreed. She was right. Jim wasn't the best influence. My wife went on a trip with her high school friends, which I was happy to pay for. Our plans on making fiends didn't really work out. During her trip, I found a diary entry in which she expressed her attraction to this guy, that she didn't care about potential fallout of making her move on him. The entry was dated back to when we all started hanging out. Still, I confronted her about this. Of all the signs, she said nothing happened. Then I found pictures of his DCK on her phone, and a text that wrote, "My husband will be out of town next week, will you be around?" I confronted her again. She claimed it was over, and that she wasn't going through with it. Mind you, I was going out of town for a close family member's funeral. I started recording her while I was away. She confesses that she didn't cheat but was going to. She apologized and tried to make up for it about a week of effort. Then she went back to barely putting out and her normal moody behavior. Is it cheating if she didn't actually cheat and only didn't go through with it because I confronted her 5-7 days before she is planning to? She told me to move on and that it was only virtual. She is cold every time I bring up the subject. I feel like I can move on but not that fast. Does almost cheating count? Story 2. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31M. She's 31F. My wife and I have been married for 4 years. I'll call her Abby. We love each other, have a great marriage and are talking about having kids soon. I really have nothing to complain about. But before Abby met me, she dated a guy named Brock for 2 years. She said she was madly in love with him but had to leave him because he was verbally abusive. Shortly after Brock left, she met me, and the rest is history. I thought it was obvious Abby forgot about Brock. However, there are some weird things she said about him that make me nervous or even a little jealous. She once told me that Brock was so good looking that she had trouble making eye contact. This was in the context of a conversation about why she tolerated her abuse for so long. And when I repeated what she said, she never said I was too pretty to look at. It's almost like she said Brock was more attractive, and that hurt. I haven't mentioned it though because she sometimes gets upset when I mention Brock. There were also a few times where she mentioned something Brock used to do, and she had this wistful look on her face, almost like she was still in love with him. However, it wasn't 100% clear and it didn't happen often, so I let it slide. I've told Abby in the past that I was a bit jealous because Brock seemed a more attractive man than me, but she assured me that she didn't think so of him and that she loved me. That being said, my wife said something weird about Brock 2 nights ago and it broke my spirit. We were sitting on the couch watching Netflix and Abby had had a little to drink. Somehow we got into the subject of feet, and how we both thought feet were dirty and didn't understand why some people like feet. I lifted up my bare foot and said something like, "Can you imagine someone loves my feet? I have disgusting feet." Abby laughed and agreed my feet were dirty. This wasn't particularly offensive, her tone was playful. After a few seconds, Abby said, "The only human feet I'd ever find attractive are Brock's. He had the most beautiful feet." As you can imagine, this killed the conversation, but Abby didn't seem to notice. She was staring off into space. I just went back to watching TV. When we woke up the next morning, she acted like nothing happened. And maybe she really didn't remember it because she was drunk, and it was a casual comment. But she has been bugging me for the past few days. Not just because she was about Brock, but because my feet were ugly. Then she said hers were beautiful. Maybe he's crazy, but she really made me feel insecure and jealous. Abby noticed something was wrong with me. She asked this morning if something was wrong. I denied it, but I don't think I can forget it the way I want. I think I need to sit down with her and talk about Brock's situation. We'll be locked up together for at least the next couple of weeks, so that complicates things. It's not like either of us can walk away if the conversation turns sour. And I hope it doesn't come to this. But, any advice on how to approach this topic? Do I have to report it at all? Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, Abby, I'd really appreciate it if you'd stop comparing me to Brock. If he asks you why he came off, tell her how he made the conversation feel for you. What he said and explained to her is pretty obvious. Those comments would let you hear. Reddit following, exactly this. The best way is a simple measure, not extreme. Just express your feelings in a calm way and point out the obvious so he can understand the point of view. Then go ahead, don't judge too much. If she always compares you or mentions to Brock, it means that she is immature, and you will see what your next decision will be. Redditor 2, I have dated men who were more physically attractive than so I would never tell him that because it is irrelevant and potentially hurtful information. I would hate for him to talk about one of his exes the way your wife talks about hers. You should talk to her about it and be honest. Redditor response, I know I'm not a very handsome guy. I accept this. But it's still incredibly painful to hear that I'm not as attractive as an ex. Especially if it's still the same ex. I would never compare Abby to my exes. Even if I make a mental effort not to compare it to past relationships. It's incredibly painful, honestly. Redditor 3, at some point you will have to accept that you don't have good feet. Tell her to stop talking about Brock. Update, my wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31M, she's 31F. So I tried to post this first thing in the morning while replies to my first post were still pouring in as I spoke to Abby almost immediately and considered the issue largely resolved. Automod removed it, so I had to wait a few days. Looking back, I'm glad I had to wait because it gave me more time to reflect on the responses I received. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who replied to me yesterday. Unfortunately, I got some weird advice. A number of users called my wife an alpha widow, while others told me to get divorced immediately because she must cheat. I have had some users call my wife a bitch. This was a sobering reminder that the anonymous people of the internet don't understand the nuances of my marriage, and that people tend to project their own insecurities onto other people's situations. So I would advise anyone considering posting here to use discretion when accepting recommendations. To avoid speculation, Brock has been living in South Korea for 2 years, has been banned from contacting Abby by court order, and still has free access to her DMs. If he cheats, I'll be the first to know. I also received great advice on trauma bonding and recovering from abusive exes. These answers have been the most helpful. That said, here's what I posted about that night. I was sitting on my bed last night, thinking a little, when Abby came in. She sat on the bed next to me and looked at me. She must have known something was up because I haven't been myself for the past few days and our bedroom is dead from her feet comment. Abby asked me if everything was okay. I gave her a tired smile and said no, I don't think so. She frowned and asked if we could talk about it. I sighed deeply and was silent for a moment. Abby didn't seem nervous or defensive, she seemed genuinely concerned. So I thought she shouldn't be aware of how hurtful her comments about Brock were, and I should just be honest. I started by asking her if she would be 100% honest with me. She said she was her. So I asked her if she's happy being married to me and if she'd rather be with someone else. She seemed a little surprised by her question and she said that she would never dream of marrying anyone else. My voice was shaking all the time and Abby sounded like she was about to cry too. Finally, I explain everything. I tell Abby we were talking about feet a few nights ago, and she said my feet were dirty, but Brock's feet were nice. I said it may sound really dumb and stupid, but that comment really made me feel ugly and it broke my heart. At which point she gasped and she started crying. I said there were a few other times where she mentioned Brock and pretended that she really missed her because she seemed in love when she mentioned him. I said that I think Brock was probably a lot more attractive than me and that she would rather be with him than me. Abby cried for a long time before she could say anything. It was probably only 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. She said she didn't know she was talking about Brock like that and upset me like that. She said she couldn't imagine marrying anyone but me. I said, even though I'm uglier than Brock? And she started crying again like she was really screaming. After pulling herself together, she admitted that Brock was a very attractive man and that she had been in love with him. It seemed extremely difficult for her to say those words. But Brock had also been controlling and incredibly cruel. She never felt safe or comfortable with him, but she felt safe with me. She said she married me, and wanted kids with me, and she never dreamed of marrying Brock, let alone having kids with him. We then talked about some deeper, more personal things that I'd rather not go into here. I mentioned some of the trauma-related stuff that some Redditors mentioned last night, and Abby admitted that she felt addicted to drama while dating Brock. She agreed to talk to her counselor about her unresolved issues with that previous relationship. The conversation lasted over an hour and we both cried a lot. But I felt much better afterwards. We cuddled for a while before I joked that I think Abby will be stuck on my mean feet for the rest of my life. She took my head in her hands and said she thought I had the most beautiful feet in the world because they were mine. We kissed and had sex for the first time in a week. Maybe it's TMI, but I thought a lot of people here would appreciate a happy ending. So I think the problem is largely solved. I think I may have exaggerated a bit, but my feeling of being accidentally made less attractive was real. I'm glad I didn't doubt and suppressed my emotions. Thanks to everyone who offered advice in the original thread. It seems that the situation has been resolved. Edit, though I will add that I still feel a little sad that I am not as attractive as Abby's ex. Not because I'm jealous, but because I want to be the best she's ever had in every way, including physically. But I guess I simply have to make peace with the fact that I'm not the most attractive guy Abby has been with. I suppose a lot of us have to make peace with that, huh? Edit 2. I appreciate all your kind words. I would like to add that I do not consider the situation magically over, but I count it as resolved because Abby and I are both moving in the right direction and actively working on fixing this. I would also like to add that despite this positive update, I see some disappointing comments. Users say I'm immature, my wife totally cheats on me, I'm a troll who made it all up because my writing style isn't great, this sub is a terrible place to discuss a serious marital problem and I shouldn't have, etc. etc. I also have a few interesting PMs trying to hook me into some sort of anti-woman community and one telling me to end myself. I read that Reddit can be toxic, but this was an eye-opener. I might want to post an update in a month, but with all this negativity, I think I could just leave things here. There's a lot I haven't posted here, and I mean a lot. I think it's understandable that some people treat this as their blank canvas on which to project their own insecurities. Thank you to everyone who provided positive feedback and constructive criticism. Redditor's reactions story 2 after. Redditor 1, holy smokes, this is such a great update. You both handled it really well, I'm glad nothing bad came of it. I hope that things will continue to go smoothly for you two for the rest of your days together. I think it's amazing that you both were able to tell each other what's wrong, express emotions, and make joke of it afterwards, etc. You don't need to be the best in every way for her, because in the end she is very happy why you and she is choosing you over anyone else despite any imperfections you got, and that's possibly the best tier already is. Op answer, I'm extremely lucky to have my wife. She is a very emotionally intelligent woman. Redditor 2, well, who cares about looks if you're the best in every other possible way? For me, my exes probably aren't the best looking to most. But I don't love someone for looks. But their looks definitely grow on me and I see zero faults in how they look. Your personality will always be better than Brock's beautiful feet, insert gag here. Redditor follow up, I dated a guy on and off for several years who was incredibly good looking. He'd had bit parts in a couple of major Hollywood films and was a local celebrity. That relationship was so toxic that while I can acknowledge he was physically gorgeous, I am in no way attracted to anyone who looks even slightly like him. So even if I were to say Roberto had gorgeous feet, my internal context is that those are a shoal feet that can't be trusted. Redditor 3, I'm glad you didn't jump straight to divorce like Reddit often encourages. Story 2, my 45M wife 42F revealed she was unfaithful and I'm divorcing her. Our children 15F and 17M hate me for it. Edit, guys, I appreciate the advice. But I'm not asking on how to get past the infidelity. I've made my decision, and it's not something I'm willing to forgive. I'm looking for advice on how to handle this with my kids, and how to reassure them we can still be a family even if we aren't married. My wife and I have been together for 18 years. We had our ups and downs, but overall our marriage was solid and she was my best friend. We have always been very close to our children and have raised them a lot together, and they in turn are very close to us. About 2 weeks ago I had an advice column in the paper I had read about infidelity and I talked about it for a while and I could clearly see that she started crying and tried to hide it, so I asked her what was her harassment. She confessed to cheating on me about 7 years ago with a former colleague on a business trip, then once with him before breaking off out of guilt. This was around the time she left that job for a new job, which she told me then was not right for her, but now she confesses that she no longer wanted to work with him. She says she never had a good reason to do it, so she knew it was wrong, but she gave in to the impulse and nothing has happened since. She says she confessed now because she can't live with the guilt of hiding it from me. We spent the next 3 days talking about when the kids were at school, doing our best not to let them know they were home. I realized that I knew I would never be able to let him go, nor would I be able to forgive her. She is shocked. We left our children to tell them our marriage was coming to an end. This was obviously very heavy. They did what could be expected, and both were blamed. My wife and I decided to tell them it was mutual, but I think the guilt got the better of her as she ended up crying and telling them not to blame me, who had betrayed my trust in the past and just now he told me, and that it's all his fault. It had the opposite effect she expected, and now both of our kids are absolutely irritated that I didn't forgive mom and ruined our family. My wife has repeatedly tried to blame herself, which only causes the kids to double down and defend her more as if she is the victim. I don't want to drag his mom through the mud, so I'll try to explain as tactfully as possible, but they went so far as to say they don't want to see him anymore if I have my own apartment and reject my suggestion. I refuse to see a therapist together and dismiss the idea that I still intend to see her regularly and get on well with her mother. My wife is not helping as she has been an emotional wreck since I told her about my plan to leave. I love my children, but I don't know how to make them understand that without dragging their mother through the mud. I don't know how to reassure them that it has nothing to do with them or that I am not trying to punish or hurt their mother. All I know is that I can't get over it, and for my own happiness, I have to go. Any suggestions on how to get them to stop seeing me as the bad guy would be helpful. Redditor's reactions. Story 3 after. Redditor 1, it's such a tough situation because as kids being loved unconditionally by their parents and vice versa, it's so hard for them to see that your love for their mother is actually conditional. It's going to take a while for the sting to dissipate for everyone involved. Just stay level-headed around them and always reassure them of your love for them, even when you feel like they're hating you. Redditor follow-up, it's so hard for them to see that your love for their mother is actually conditional. Wow, I never thought of it that way. But blood connects the kid and parent, while the spoken agreement connects the spouses. Redditor 2, I'm sorry that you are faced with this. I know it is very painful right now, but I am sure your kids will get over their anger toward you. You sound like a father who is trying to handle this in the best way for the kids. They will see that eventually. My sisters hated my mother when she left my father. Long story short, they have a great relationship with her now. And not with my father. All due to his actions throughout the divorce process. Keep handling this maturely and with the kids in mind and they will be fine. Redditor follow up, yup. This is just childish anger they are displaying. It will pass, especially with a little bit of time. And after it does, he can get them into therapy. I also think he is being passive regarding the reason behind the divorce. I'm not saying he should be shouting that she cheated off of roofs, but he should be telling family and friends why they are getting divorced. Being passive in situations like this can backfire. Redditor 3, divorce is always tough, brother. The kids may understand the older they get, but you know that infidelity is just more than breaking up with a girl or boyfriend. You forge a life together and that life comes with certain unspoken expectations, fidelity being one with a bullet. You're not wrong here. Story 3, my wife F30 told me that she cheated on me M28 and I honestly don't know what to do. We've been married for over 5.5 years. I love him so much. In December 2018 we finally got our own apartment and everything was fine with us. These 5 years have been so magical, and despite all the hardships of life I always told myself that I would marry her again. Last Tuesday my manager told us that we had VTO, volunteer time off. I worked the night shift so my colleague took me home. My wife and I share a car. As he was dropping me off, I noticed that our car was not in our parking lot. I thought she parked somewhere else. Once inside, I went to our room so I could kiss her, surprise her, and tell her I was home. The plan was to make her breakfast before she woke up to go to work. She was not in the bedroom. She was not at home. So I called her and asked her where she was. When she answered, it sounded like she had just woken up. My heart broke as I heard what was happening. She made up an excuse that she was at the store picking up some balloons for a co-worker's birthday. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. So I was in bed and she came home after waiting 30 minutes. She sat up on the bed and I asked her if she was okay. She didn't want to answer and started crying. Then after asking for 5 minutes what was going on, she told me that she cheated on me. She said she went out and talked to someone, got drunk and this happened. I'm sad. Honestly, I thought this would never happen to me. I do not know what to do. We talked for a long time about our wedding and what we were going to do. We agreed we would try to work this out, but right now 9605545 I am seriously considering divorcing her. I can't even look at it anymore. The thought of hugging her, kissing her, touching her makes me sick. He wants to fix it, but my heart doesn't fit anymore. What should I do? I am exaggerating? I really thought about ending myself. I'm so sad. She was my everything. Thank you. Edit. Just got back from my long walk since posting this 0500 PST. I'm so surprised at the support. Thanks to everyone who replied with your advice. I still love her, and in the end, even if it's hard for me, I forgive her. Time will heal this pain, and I honestly love her too much to put an end to it. We've been through a lot and have so many great memories. I honestly can't imagine being with anyone else. He really regrets cheating on me. Most won't agree with this, but I'll give it one more chance and see where it goes. And no, I'm not ending myself. I promise. I really appreciate your concerns and your responses. I'm glad you took the time to answer me despite your busy life. Pay attention and I will update over time. Update. I read the comments. I understand that for the most part, it's silly that I'm still with her. I see. Believe me. We talked a lot. She's really sorry and I forgive her. I've put her mistake behind me and can't wait to restore our marriage. We plan to go into therapy soon so we can talk about it. The reason we haven't left yet is because we have to work, as there are bills to pay. We'll be debt-free by the end of 2019, but we'll be going sometime next week. We're working on it. We still live together. We are communicating more and more about what we need to do to improve our marriage and love life. To be honest, it went well. Things are looking good, as I will be moving to day shift soon so I can hang out with her, sleep with her, and have the regular schedule I've been craving. I still want her in my life and I don't see a divorce. We'll settle this. Thanks again to everyone who helped me in my need. I am truly grateful that you all took the time to advise me. It helps. I will update over time. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, please don't end yourself. Leaving her for cheating is not an overreaction. Killing yourself would be. I've been in your shoes, except my now ex-husband got the girl pregnant and I did leave, and while it took some time, I'm so much happier now. Give yourself a chance to absorb the blow, to process the loss, to grieve. You can do this. Edit to say, check out our Surviving Infidelity. You might find the support you need right now. Edit 2, wow, thanks for the platinum, guys. Redditor follow up, shamelessly hijacking the current top comment, sorry mate. Yes, check out that sub. You will get the support you need with regards to your marriage. However, you should be prioritizing your mental health over any consideration of her at the moment. Suicidal thoughts should not be taken lightly. Please talk to someone you trust right away. If there is no one in your life you can open up to right now, there are a number of options available to you. Try here for starters, https www.imalive.org https www.imalive.org. Please take care of you. This is not your fault, it is entirely hers. There will be a lot of work to do on her part if you hope to salvage this relationship, but that can come in time. Right now you take care of you. Redditor 2, she said that she went out and talked to someone, got drunk and it just happened. I'll bet $100 that is a lie. You didn't just happen to come home the night she just happened to cheat for the first time. Trickle truthing. Contact an attorney, and keep pressing her for the specifics, not sexual, but activities over time. Why did she go out drinking that night? Where? Was this a stranger? She went home with someone she didn't know? Really? So many questions, and the lies have just begun. So sorry, Op. Redditor follow up, I'll see your $100 and raises another $100 that this is not the first time. The odds of Op having the day off on the same day as wife had a ONS has to be the same as winning the lottery. She knew your schedule and has been doing this for a while. Redditor 3, I suspect trickle truth here. She's still lying. You mean to say that you just so happened to catch her on the one time she cheated on you? Seriously? She upset she got caught and proceeding with damage control. Press her on more information, check her phone. Redditor follow up, don't even bother pressing her for more information or checking her phone. It's not worth it and she'll just continue to lie. Just leave her. Divorce her. Move on. It will take a long time to heal, but you will get there. I've been in these same shoes. Don't KLL yourself over some other person. That's so ridiculous.